of the Apple Guy. This is Kyle here. Today we are going to be taking a look at the all-new 27-inch iMac. This iMac features the same design as the 2012 iMac, but it features some new under-the-hood improvements. So as you guys can see, it still features the 5K display. It still comes in 21.5 and 27 inches. The same starting prices as before. So the Retina display, as always. True Tone technology is now built in, and the 27-inch display features a nano textured glass option, which is $500 extra, which was first introduced on the Pro Display XDR. So there's your display technology for both models. And of course the nano texture to get a minimum glare. And this is perfect for inconsistent lighting in rooms. And if you have a window and your curtains don't block out the sunlight, or you have different lighting in your room, or so on and so forth, and there's a lot of glare at your screen, this is perfect way to minimize glare and to get the best level of quality out of a display. So this is their little animation of how the nano texture glass scatters inbound light to minimize glare. So it pretty much just bounces the light off of the material and scatters it back into the surrounding room. But of course you don't see that, but that's how that works. Under the hood you have some new processors. Now you have the 6-core Intel i7, the new 10th generation processors are in here. You can now have on the 27-inch model a 10-core i9 processor. So that's nice. And on the 21-inch model, you only get the 8th generation chip as the previous model. But on the 27-inch, you can go all the way up to a 10-core 10th generation i9, which is the new 7nm architecture from Intel. And that gives you a turbo boost on the 27-inch model up to 5.0 gigahertz. And of course, these are the speeds on the 27-inch models compared to the baseline 27-inch of last year's model. So this is the percentage difference you will see in most applications according to Apple's testing, of course. Your mileage will vary depending on the model you configure and RAM and so on and so forth. This computer has now been able to install up to 128 gigabytes of memory on the 27-inch model straight from the factory. On the 2019 27-inch iMac, you can do it yourself up to 128 gigs by buying RAM yourself. You can still do that, of course, on the 27-inch model of this year because it still has the same RAM accessible door on the back of it. But you can order it from the factory with 128 if you feel like that. So here's your maximum RAM you can get on both models. So 32 gigs on the 21.5 and of course 128 on the 27-inch. They're DDR4 technology and they're running at 266 megahertz. And on the 27-inch, if you guys do decide to do RAM upgrades, of course do a cheaper option. Go to Amazon or OWC and pick up some RAM there, and you'll get it at a much cheaper price than what Apple has offered. And of course, check the links down below for my Amazon affiliate, where you can get the RAM for cheaper for your 27-inch iMac, and more stuff like that down below. Next up, we have amazing graphics in this computer. It now features the new 5000 series graphics from AMD. So on the 21.5 model, you get the AMD Radeon Pro 500X, which is much faster than the previous generation graphics, and you can configure it all the way up to a Radeon Pro Vega 20. On the 27-inch model, however, you get the 5000 series graphics with dedicated 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory. So that's the top tier configuration, and we will take a look at that in a little bit. So here's your maximum memory configuration. As you can see on the 21-inch model, it's going to cost a few dollars more just because it's using HBM2, which is high bandwidth memory, which is obviously faster than GDDR6, but it's more expensive to produce. Pricing will be a little bit different, but I presume maybe the HBM2 on the 21.5 model isn't as expensive as it was on previous generations, but in all intents purposes, go for the 27-inch because you're going to get 16 gigs of dedicated RAM for the graphics processor if you configure it to that high tier card, and you'll get up to 40 compute units over the 20 compute units on the 21.5-inch. So here's the 27-inch iMac that they're testing with the 10-core with the top tier Radeon 5700 XT 16 gigabytes of GDDR versus their last year model, which was an 8-core Vega Pro and 8 gigabytes of HBM2, their baseline iMac. So this is your percentages that you'll get over the previous generation. So here's your percentages that you'll get. Of course, mileage will vary. Storage has been vastly improved. No more hard drives whatsoever. No more fusion drives whatsoever on the 27-inch models. Flash storage is now standard on all iMac models. And the 27-inch can now be upgraded to a whopping 8 terabytes of solid state, which gives you 3.4 gigabytes of sequential read and write speeds. So you can go up to a terabyte on the 21, and 27-inch model can go up to 8 terabytes. The mics have now been improved. Now you get the same microphones as the 2019 MacBook Pros, the new iPad Pro 2020. So it's the new studio quality mics. The camera has been vastly improved on the 27-inch model to 1080p finally. And now you have the T2 security chip, which handles the security and boot sequences and so on and so forth, and other systems built into the iMac and other Apple computers. So you got a camera, you get a better camera on the 27-inch model, of course, over the 720p on the 21.5. And there's your microphone array setup at the bottom there. So the T2 security chip, of course, your coprocessor for the secure enclave, secure boot, encrypted storage, and it features powerful features like the 1080p FaceTime camera, face detection, enhanced speaker-based response, and the special Siri command, as you can see here now. You can use it on the iMac, and it does transcoding for HEVC video because of that coprocessor. Connectivity, you have, of course, your 2 Thunderbolt 3 USB-C ports and 4 USB-A ports. All iMacs are now standard with a 1 gigabit Ethernet port, and you can configure it for $100 more to the 10 gigabit Ethernet port. So on the 27-inch model, of course. Wi-Fi has been upgraded, and on the 27-inch you get Bluetooth 5.0. So your ports, you still got a headphone jack, you still got an SD card, you still have your USB 3.0 Type A ports, you still have 2 Thunderbolt ports, and standard gigabit Ethernet. So this iMac is very spec'd out in terms of I/O configurations. If you still need that, iMac is the best way to go. And you can obviously hook up 2 6K displays, including a Pro XDR display. And of course, that's their keyboard, and so on and so forth. And that's their trade-in options at the bottom. Let's take a look at the technical specs. First up is a 21.5-inch. So you still have the baseline, which is still 1920 by 1080. And then you have the 4K variant of the 21.5-inch model, which doesn't get true tone at all, so it still keeps the same specs as the previous generation. The processors are still the same as the previous models. Pricing is still the same. Memory configuration is also the same as last year's. The difference is now you can get flash storage as the base, but the 21.5 inch models should not be purchased whatsoever due to the fact that it only comes with 256 gigabytes of solid state standard, but when you upgrade, you can only go on the base model to a terabyte fusion drive, which is obviously a hard drive mixed with a solid state hard drive built into the physical platter, and you get the same options on the other two tiers on the 4K models, but you can also go to SSDs on the 4K models, but that's obviously you got to pay for it, and you're not getting like the best specifications at all. Graphics wise, you can't even upgrade on the baseline 1080p model. You can only upgrade on the top tier 4K 21.5 inch model. Camera, of course, that's your 720p, and now you get Thunderbolt 3 digital video output built into there. You get Gigabit Ethernet, same ports as the 27-inch model, same setup. Wi-Fi, it's still on Wi-Fi 5, which is AC. It doesn't even include Wi-Fi 6, which is AX. It doesn't even have Bluetooth 5.0, so that's not something you would want to get in this model. So this computer just really got, this version of this computer has only got a upgraded storage configuration to start with solid state and graphics. Otherwise than that, the 21-inch model should be avoided whatsoever. 27-inch, this is where we get the biggest improvements. True Tone display. You can add on nano textured glass. You get your 5K display, of course. You get, for the base price of $17.99, you get a 3.1 gigahertz 6-core 10th generation Intel Core i5. And then from there, you get a 3.3 6-core 10th gen i5. And then, of course, you at the end, you get an 8th core 10th generation i7 at 3.8 gigahertz base. And, of course, on the latter two, you can upgrade that to the 10-core i9. Pricing is still the same as the previous generation. RAM can be configured from the factory with 128, but you can buy that yourself, and you can still upgrade the RAM yourself. Storage can't be upgraded on the $17.99 model, but on the next two tiers, you can upgrade that to 2 terabytes on the middle tier, and on the expensive end, you can go to 8 terabytes on the last tier. Graphics wise, you get a 5300 with 4 gigabytes of GDDR6 on the base. Middle tier is the same, no upgradability. On the top tier, that's where you get the 550X to start with 8 gigabytes of graphics memory. And you can bump it up to a 5700X XT with 16 gigabytes of RAM, or you can bump it up to a 5700 with 8 gigabytes of RAM. So you get more flexibility with the $2,000 model, and pricing wise, you might as well configure it with the 5700 XT, so you can get the most of the performance of the graphics and the memory bandwidth, of course. Standard, of course, is your 1080p camera and the ability for the Thunderbolt 3 ports to now do digital video output. And, of course, you have your speaker setup, the special Siri command. Of course, headphone jack is still there. All the goods are still on this computer. And 10 gigabit can only be upgraded on the 27-inch model. Wi-Fi, okay, this is where it's weird. They still have AC Wi-Fi, but not AX, when the iPhone 11s and iPad Pro has it. But they have Bluetooth 5.0. So this is a little tricky. If you guys just hardwire your computer, obviously 1 gigabit through hardwire is fantastic. But if you're doing it off of wireless and you want to wait, you should wait for in general, if you still have a working iMac or Mac in general, you should wait for the Apple Silicon computers to come out, because of course that's going to obviously include the faster Wi-Fi, the faster storage, faster memory. It's going to include a lot more up-to-date components that Apple can source, of course. but it's also going to include a new design and revamp of all of that. But if you do need a computer right now and you're okay with this computer setup and you like the iMac, you can go ahead and get it. It's a perfect Intel machine from Apple. It's probably the last one they're going to make. So if you need boot camp or whatnot and you like this design and you're okay with it, this is perfect for you to get. As far as pricing goes, we're going to look at prices for the 27-inch model. We're going to look at the top tier model because that is the one that I would recommend people would go out and purchase. Processor wise, you can stay with it or not. If you want the nano textured glass, you can add that on, which depends on your lighting condition and what you like. You can obviously go back to standard or just do that. Nice upgrade option. Processor depends on your intensive applications if they require more processing power over graphics. If not, then the base config processor is perfect for people that just need the basic on this machine. RAM, do not upgrade it from Apple. Buy it on another website and do it yourself. You can do it for cheaper. So that's a good thing about the 27-inch models. Graphics upgrade, you can go either to 5700 if you want that, or you can just do the 5700 XT. Depends on your workload and how much you can afford, of course. Storage, 512 gigabytes should be standard, but if you do need more storage, the best option is to pay the extra $200 for a terabyte, or if you want to be on the safe side and you can afford it, pay $600 for 2 terabytes so you have room to grow. But of course, that depends on your budget. If you can only afford the 1 terabyte upgrade, that is understandably perfect. If you can afford 2 terabytes, so on and so forth, that's fine. Gigabit Ethernet is excellent for people that have gigabit or starting to get gigabit Ethernet in their house. If you have 10 gigabit, $100 extra, not bad. Of course, same mouse configuration and pre-installed software you can obviously pay for. So that's the biggest change with the 27-inch iMac. As far as the iMac Pro, the only difference that happened on this computer is that the 8-core configuration for the base price has been removed. So for $5,000, you get the 10-core Xeon W processor. And the reason why they did this was because the top tier 27-inch model was right on performance as the 8-core Xeon W base model iMac Pro. So that's why they got rid of the 8-core in the iMac Pro and dropped the 10-core down to base configuration. So for the price, you're getting more performance for that price. The only thing they didn't add here, which is weird, is the nano texture display. You figure the Pro model, for the price you're paying, you would want to upgrade for $500 extra to have it on their top tier iMac, but it's only on their 27-inch model. And memory is still the same, the graphics is still the same, storage options are still the same. So the craziest thing is with storage options and graphics options, even processor, you get better graphics on the regular iMac, 27-inch iMac versus the iMac Pro, and you get an extra 4 terabytes to give you 8 terabytes in total on the 27-inch regular iMac. And of course, not to mention the nano texture display and whatnot. So it looks like the iMac Pro is just getting a little bump down to get you in the door if you want it, but I don't think people are going to want this computer anymore personally, because you can get faster performance on something that's half the price of this computer's starting price. So I don't know what Apple's going to do with this. I believe Apple would discontinue the iMac Pro due to the fact, of course, the Mac Pro is out and this computer was holding people over for the Mac Pro. So we'll have to see what Apple does to this, if it gets the new silicon, Apple Silicon or not, or whatnot. But that was all for today, guys, with Apple's press release of their new 27-inch iMac. If you guys are in the market for a new iMac and you love the 27-inch model and you're okay with this design and everything that comes in the computer and you're satisfied with it and you need boot camp and you want to have an Intel computer that can run not just boot camp software for Windows, but applications that might not work on Apple Silicon, this is the perfect Intel machine for you. It has the perfect graphics options for you and everything. And of course, if you want, you can see the hype about that nano texture display for only $500 versus the starting price of the Pro Display XDR, which is in the thousands. Alright guys, that's everything in this video. Check the links down below, of course, for the Amazon affiliate to check out the RAM for the computer where you can get deals on that. Follow on Twitter, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.